this year's been a lot of change. These past few years have been a lot of change, but in particular, big changes are coming. And today's episode is all about big changes. And it's titled Bye Bye Roman, because it was announced yesterday, as of time of recording, that Roman Abramovich, the owner of Chelski Football Club, billionaire, has decided to sell the club as he feels he is no longer in the best position to run it. Wow. When you saw that news online, what was going through your mind when you saw it?
I wanted it to be a hoax. I wanted it to be fake, some kind of Twitter troll. But, one Roman Empire went many generations ago. The second one has to go at some point. It was never going to last forever. He hasn't been in the country or too many games at the moment for, the things that he has to deal with. But seeing it more and more has it's sunk in that it is his time, that he has to go. It doesn't last forever, unfortunately. It was always that conversation of when it was going to happen. We just didn't know when it was going to be. But you can't say that, we'll probably get onto it more, you can't say that he's not left behind some kind of massive legacy behind at Chelsea. So the next person that comes in has got to realise that, irregardless of say about the money, because I think there's something about him owing him money, and he doesn't want any of it. I think he just wants to have the sale and go off and do what he needs to do. And it just shows you that, yes, the money did help, but he's done so much in the space of 20 years he's been in this club, 20 years, taking us from near on liquidation to turning us into a superpower, a seat on the table, so to speak. So the next person who comes in has got to realise what they got on their hands. So I hope whenever that's going to be, God, it sounds like I'm in mourning right now.
I mean, even on the topic of the sale and the amount. I mean, there's been a lot of conflicting reports as to, like you said, whether the loans that were taken out to purchase the company and obviously money that's been invested. From what I've read and heard, I think that in the asking price for the club, it does involve all of those monies is included in the asking price. The other question is, of course, with how this money be used after it's sold. Of course, he said he's going to donate a large portion of it, if not all of it, to people that have been affected by the conflict in Ukraine. Now, that's a nice, noble cause. Yeah. Of course, it's phrased in a way where, I wouldn't want anyone to just interpret that to mean that means it's going to be going solely and exclusively to people from Ukraine or Ukrainians who've been affected. That might also apply to those Russians who've been affected as well by this conflict. So I do think he's got a very noble sort of outlook in relation to that. And obviously there's a lot of controversy about his background and his kind of affiliations with the president of Russia. And just in terms of just his whole backstory, there's a lot of question marks. But we'll put those to the side for now. Let's start off at the beginning of the journey, when Roman first took over back in 2003?
2003, yeah.
That was his first year in charge. Of course, you had Claudio Ranieri as your manager, the great Tinker Man.
Yeah.
I remember that first season you guys came in, and it wasn't really much. There wasn't much to shout about, but you could kind of feel like there was something coming. And for you, looking back to those early days of Romans, this is just before trophies rolled in.
Yeah.
What was the presiding feeling for you as a Chelsea fan?
Just possibility and the money that came in. We bought so many players, even in that first year. Key one, if people want to remember, is one player called Adrian Mutu, our famous number 7, and how quickly that went wrong. So much promise around him, and it just seemed that every time you see him in the paper, he owes money to somebody, all because of his cocaine thing. Millions and millions and millions of euros and dollars. Just such a tragic shame, because of such a talent. He lit up for this very brief moment he was there. He did really well. He lit up. And then we signed others like Jeremy from Real Madrid. I'm not saying we signed them this necessarily that particular season, but what was possible, what we were bringing in. We signed Veron. We'll get to that later.
And get to it now. That didn't work out.
It didn't work at all. But we didn't sometimes we didn't learn a lesson on that one. But one of the key things was that we finished second in the league, but granted behind the Invincibles. So that was never really going to be much of a challenge. But it was one of the few silly little games that we lost along the way. We could have made the gap a little bit narrower. One of the key ones was where in Europe we got to the semi-finals.
I remember the infamous game at the two legs Arsenal Chelsea Champions League. Obviously you went on to play Monaco in the next round, semi-finals, and they knocked you out. But those two games, Arsenal Chelsea, the battle at the Bridge, and then the game at Highbury, I think that's some of the best football I've seen our two teams play head to head. In that, to the extent where the coaches could have no influence. In fact, there's a biography about Arsene Wenger, and it talks about that particular game.
Yeah.
And one of the writers said that just watching that match back, it just felt like he used the phrase. It was like of how Arsenal were playing. It was like simultaneous improvisation. Every player was just in flow and just playing to their best. And Chelsea were giving it back equal. So it was like one of those games where, but for Wayne Bridge, Arsenal might have had a chance to bring home big ears, but we weren't able to on that occasion. But again, that was a good sign of the progress that you had made, considering for years and years prior to that, when it came to Arsenal Chelsea, we'd had close battles. We didn't always have our number. And that was, I think, the game that was kind of the turning point in, okay, Chelsea have arrived now, because you've come to, you've come against Arsenal. You've
at Highbury.
And you've given us a game. And of course, then we move on from that season, and you go to like the first title-winning seasons, and out with Ranieri, which in many respects you can say it was kind of unfair how he got ousted. Yeah. But as is synonymous with Roman's reign, he suffered no falls, and if he felt like you were not able to do the job and can kind of deliver what he wanted, you were gone. Yeah. So Jose came in, fresh-faced. The housewives loved him. The opposition managers hated him, and he was just box office for the press. When Jose came in, and that phase of the Abramovich era, what was that like?
It was such a new feeling looking at the back of the paper. You look forward to looking at the back of the papers, right? Not just to see necessarily but Mourinho, what he's talking about, but the result we get. I mean, we were hitting 4-0s, 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 4-0s on a consistent basis. And but for one game, we actually would have won the season invincible. We lost it was a game against Man City. I think we lost 1-0. Way back when. Bar for that game, it would have been almost pretty much a perfect season. But it was just exciting because it's like our identity's changed over literally a season from this guy arriving, and him coming in with Mourinho was just kind of a shake-up I think it kind of needed, because for you guys it was all right, for like the Arsenals and the Man U's, you doing your own way. We just kind of came in and just did it. We changed it. We shook it up a little bit. We shook, maybe give him a little shake-up it might have needed to add a third party to the conversation, because Tottenham weren't there. Liverpool weren't there. It was and Man City were nowhere near the force they are now. It needed that kind of that third act to complete the storyline, to complete the soap opera, and that's exactly what happened. It kind of made not to brag, but it's like it made it entertaining. Like you said, housewives were buying the paper and turning to the back page for the very first time. My mum, God rest her soul, absolutely loved the man when he had his faded, when he had like the little floppy hair and the coat. And like, I've never seen so many. I swear I saw 3 different papers at the house at one point. 3 different papers just to see this man. And he's had a bit of swagger, a bit of appeal. Like, he looked good. And he backed his talk. It's like watching a boxer, a heavyweight boxer. He backed himself. But he loved the tomfoolery of it all. He loved the tomfoolery, just messing with their minds, messing with the minds of Mourinho, messing with the minds of Fergie. It was.
Fergie and Wenger.
Fergie Wenger. Sorry. He loved it. And that first season, like those 2 seasons we came and won the league back to back, just absolute, just carnage. And just being able to connect to compete and just watch our team progress. And the additions we made, especially the likes of Drogba. Especially with the likes of Drogba, completing that spine, with Drogba, Lampard, Terry, and of course a young Czech.
Yeah, a young dependable Czech, not the broken one you guys gave us. I mean, you have had a really good habit of knowing when to kind of shift on your aging stars. You had a very good habit of picking up good players. You do have one really, really bad habit throughout this whole time of Abramovich being your owner.
Yeah.
Now, on the plus side, your academy produces some of the best young talents in world football. There are so many names of players you can think of that have come through Chelsea Academy.
Crazy.
However, for a number of years, you have let go players really early.
Yep.
And you have been made to pay by those same players when they come back. And also some of those players when you buy them back and they flop. Yeah. But let's leave Lukaku to for a second. But Mo Salah, Kevin De Bruyne, do you look back and think the ruthlessness that Abramovich had in regards to the managers and that quest for success, because the Champions League was his biggest desire for the longest time, and it always felt like year after year it just wasn't coming. Do you look back and feel like that's one of the big regrets of his era, just not having a bit more patience it's hard to say, because when you look at the record of what you've done, you've won so much in the years he's been at Chelsea. His approach kind of is justified, but do you take a step back and think, well, maybe if we were a bit more patient, like when Mourinho was in season 3 and it was kind of going into a decline, maybe if we gave him a chance to refresh the squad, could he have gotten us back there? Or maybe with some of the younger players, should someone else have stepped in and said, you know what, Roman, let's keep some of these guys around, let's give them a bit more time to see if they develop.
Yeah. I don't know if he does, but I know some of the fans do. It's always a case of those what if questions, like what if we kept De Bruyne, if we kept Salah, and we kept Lukaku when they were all young and fresh for that one time. And with the additions of the likes of Hazard, with the likes of Mata, with the likes of Oscar, with the likes of still dependable players like your Lampards, your Czechs, your Coles. What could have been, and bear in mind after Lukaku, we didn't have a good striker for a very long time.
That's true.
What could have been, like, just how much more exciting it would have been. Goals. One thing is, all those players will guarantee you is goals, whether they went to, when Lukaku later on into Inter Milan, and then loan spells at Everton and West Brom as well. De Bruyne, when we went to Wolfsburg before then going to Man City, and then Salah going to Roma and obviously heading to Liverpool. I mean, all three of those players there are going to win big things, whether it's leagues, Champions Leagues, and international leagues as well. That could have been us. In fact, it was us, but just pushing that trigger finger was real itchy for three very talented players who go on to prove on for great success. I think for many, many fans, it's always the case, especially added with the additional likes of Hazard. That would have been just, we would have stormed. From what we've seen, we would have absolutely stormed. But does he care? Probably not.
Well, speaking of Hazard and I guess of these younger players that were let go a bit early, who would you say now, looking back on this whole era, because it's obviously until he's officially sold, it's not over, but by all due respect, it's done. The Roman era is over. Who would you say has been his best signing as a player throughout this time? You've had some highlights. You've had some stinkers too, but we'll come to them in a second.
Stinkers, unfortunately, a bit too easy to name, but for the absolute, certified legends, I can't claim Lampard because he came before.
No, just signings, not legends. Just
signing.
So who was the best signing in the Abramovich era? Because we're going to save the best player for later.
His best signing from a footballing perspective, I think it's got to be Hazard, mate. I'd say it's got to be Hazard. I could name other ones, but for what we got from him for the time that we had him at his absolute best from start to pretty much. It might have been an odd, inconsistent moment in between, but for how he started and for how he left, loving the club and as a certified, part of Chelsea history, and just being that luxury, that clutch player that you don't want to let go of. And at any time he could have left in the time he was there, because he was there for 9 years. About 7 or 8 years. Getting the absolute, just best out of him, the tricks, the twistiness. In his early days, I employ a lot of people to go and watch him in his early days. He was absolutely unplayable. He was electric. He was just nice and close to the ground. It was like a race. It's like almost like watching a racing car just snaking through. And some of the goals he put through from long range, it was absolutely, it was incredible. I think him Not just from a football perspective and how he was with the club, but also from a business perspective. Like you said, we're letting go of the players at the right time. We bought him for what, 30 or 32 million back in 2012. Sold him for what, 100 million euro?
Yeah.
Not bad. So not only is he certified, we got our bank back on him as well. So I think it's going to be, I'd say Hazard.
I actually have a different name. A name that will probably surprise you.
Oh, it's probably what I'm thinking of.
I doubt it, but it's a player who, for me, his signing had a massive impact on two teams. The team you and the team he left. And for me, the greatest ever signing under Abramovich is Claude Makelele.
Yeah.
Because Real Madrid, it took them so long to replace him positionally because they didn't think he was important. They took that piece out of the puzzle and they were just not with the same team.
Weren't the same,
Not until they finally got... You could argue when they had Xabi Alonso in the middle, but in reality, it's when they had the Kroos, Casemiro, Modric, modern. It's only now when they had that three, when they got those guys together, that's when they fully replaced it.
They took a long time to recover.
Very long time.
Long time. Actually, Makelele certified that position for what Kante was now. And
that's
he
the thing.
Absolutely, he nailed that role, that just dependable holding role for so long. He made it. They called it.
And think about
Makelele.
after he left, you guys had Essien, you had Mikel, who were good in their own right. They weren't Claude. And it's only now you can say comfortably that N'Golo Kante took the torch to another level. Now, obviously, playing style they're very different in what they do, but the impact to the team is pretty much like you take Kante out of your team and
very disjointed.
People start to feel very concerned.
Yeah,
we don't feel comfortable. With Kante's there, it doesn't matter who you're playing against. As long as you see Kante in the team sheet, okay, we're good.
You feel happy and you do feel safe because it's like you got to take two people for what he does. And Makelele was the same. It took two people to kind of do the same what he done. And like you said, after the likes of Essien, the likes of Mikel, again, who did good stints. One name I want to mention though, who I think doesn't get mentioned very much often, is Ramirez.
Yeah, he was good.
He was good.
I would say Ramirez is more akin to how Kante's been playing post Sarri, who made him more of like a box-to-boxy type player. I think that's what I remember from Ramirez when he was at Chelsea.
And it was that chip as well against Barcelona.
Yeah.
Against Barcelona. That's why I like him just a little bit more. I always love that goal. Always love that goal.
Well, we've covered the best.
Aha.
Who's the worst?
Oh, there's a few. Let's
not pick the goalkeepers because that's easy. Nah. we could pick any of them. We've had some doozies at the back, but
Falcao didn't work out.
I forgot you guys signed him.
We'll remind you. Drinkwater didn't work. Veron didn't work. Quaresma didn't work. Pato, that didn't work.
I'm going to say Torres. Do you know why? Because the time you saw... Okay, yes, he scored the goal to get to the Champions League final.
The return, yeah.
That is true. But when you think the 50 million you guys got from him at the time, which at the time, that was a lot of money. Surprising from Liverpool, considering he was whining that season. I want to leave. And then he kind of was injured, stopped playing for a while. Then all of a sudden his form picked up leading into the winter break.
Yeah.
Or the January transfer window. And then of course he went to Chelsea. And then just completely stunk out the joint.
It didn't work.
He flopped.
It didn't work.
I'll be honest, Marouane Chamakh had a better Arsenal career than Torres had a career at Chelsea.
Steady.
And that is saying a lot.
Steady on now.
That is saying a lot. I stand by it. That's my hot take. I stand by it.
You know what the weird thing is with Torres? His return was crazy. For all he did at Liverpool, he had nothing to show for it. But when he got to Chelsea, he had everything to show. It's like, for all the minimal that he did... It was quite cheeky in a way. He won in the second year, he won the FA Cup, the Champions League, then he won the Europa League, and then he went off to back off Atletico. All right, we can, for the money, for what we were promised, for what the Torres that we saw in Liverpool, those few seasons ago, scoring like crazy, we did not get that. I was disappointed about that. But in return, it's always saying that thing where that £50 million got paid out for that goal, which is what it is. Well, that's what we're living by.
So Torres was Fernando Torres. The £50 million was justified for one goal in the Champions League. In Champions League.
Do you know how much we spend on? Do you know how much we spend? It's just like loose change almost, little thing. It's a guilty pleasure. It's a guilty pleasure. Trust me.
Words.
There have been worse. There is worse. Just give me time to think. Drinkwater was worse. Veron was worse. Pato was worse.
Drinkwater. I felt like he just came for a jolly up.
He fell off.
Absolutely fell off. Did he fell off? I don't even think he fell off. I just think you didn't realise his real level.
Yeah.
And when you signed him, it's like this guy is just not it.
Yeah.
And obviously he's got, he had off the field issues as well, which didn't help. Which of course that would be contributed by the fact that he made this big money deal and big money deal.
Yeah.
And it just hasn't worked out. And of course that can be a bit tough for a player. Who's your worst manager?
Worst manager between Sarri and AVB.
Sarri is your worst.
In terms of tenure, yeah. Or you mean like playing style?
I just said his worst manager. That is how you want to interpret it. You're saying Sarri is your worst manager.
Between.
Or AVB.
Between.
AVB fight Sarri. But he won you stuff.
No, he didn't.
He didn't win anything.
No, sorry. Not sorry. Not sorry. Sorry.
I was about to say.
Nah, not sorry. Scolari. Luis Felipe Scolari. Not sorry.
Hold on. I was about to cook him into next week, saying that the guy who won in the league was one of their worst managers. But no, thank God. He means Solari.
Luis Felipe Scolari.
Luis Felipe Scolari, the Brazilian manager.
World Cup winner.
Absolute stinker for Chelsea.
Stunk it out.
I think he
Not good.
I think about Avram Grant, because he was pretty bad.
He was pretty great. But he got us to 2 finals. Or did Mourinho get us kind of indirectly get us to 2 finals just by him being there? He got
so Solari or AVB. Well, AVB tried. He did try, but he tried to be mini Mourinho and he just wasn't.
He tried to be mini Mourinho because they're trying the same sort of thing, the same path. He came from Porto, he won the league at Porto, and then he got murmurs, oh yeah, I'm AVB and I'm not Mourinho. And I think he tried to do too much too soon. There was always a case of our players at the time, our spine, where they're getting older now. Drogba, Terry, Cech, and Cole and Lampard. There are 5 kind of big guns. They're getting on. They're in their mid to pushing 30s now, so they're going to have to be phased out at some point. Unfortunately, it just didn't work, and that might be a case of us spending all this money and not relying on probably inside talent, which at the time we did have. It was just too much, and that Napoli game, I think, was the first leg at least, the 3-1 was the last kind of straw, and then obviously Di Matteo came in and did his thing. Marks of history, but I think it was just a case of too much, too quick. He started well. He did start well, and you kind of want it to work for him. And I think sometimes, as clubs, as fans, as even the success that we've had, with which we've learned not too long ago, I think 2 seasons ago, is that you kind of have to have that season where you kind of have to start. You kind of have to, minimize expectations just a little bit. But this is Roman we're talking about, but.
I think you're right. It's important to have the right expectations in what you want to achieve. I think the problem is with some of the managers. I think even AVB's reign, you could tell the point when he lost the older players. And started to lose the dressing room. And that's the thing which is hard. When a manager comes in and they want to change things and maybe instill a new culture or instill their own way of playing, you have to, if you're going to give them that big deal, not just in terms of their own contract and their backroom staff's contracts, but also the fact you're going to give them money to buy on players. You have to give them time. I remember when Palace had De Boer,
Frank De Boer,
as their manager, and he fired him after 5 games, right?
5 games, yeah.
You got to give him more time. And I know he was really, really bad, and they were really, really bad. But if you're trying to move your club forward to a new way of playing, new style things, you got to give him more time.
Where is he now?
Especially if you brought, I have no idea. I think he's at the national team actually.
Yeah.
But you got to give him more time to kind of see it through. Now that's one of the things I'll give Arsenal credit for with Arteta right now, is that they have given him time to kind of do things the way he thinks it needs to be done to get Arsenal back to where we want to be, and in some respects we think we deserve to be. Other fans might argue with that. Take that up with your guidance counsellor. Me, I'm not bothered. But what we believe to be. So I think that's an important thing to see in a club when you give a manager time and you give the structure to support them in the decisions that they make. But at the end of the day, when you look at the Chelsea approach, it works.
It does work.
It's been highly successful. Where do you go next? I think the big question to begin with is also dealing with the sale and getting in a billionaire, an owner who has the money to be able to sustain what you've been doing.
And the drive.
Because Roman was very committed to Chelsea. Like even though he's not been allowed to be in the UK for the last few years due to lots of other ongoing off the field issues and political stuff, it hasn't changed his commitment in terms of the money invested. I mean, he spent a lot of money on Kai Havertz, on Romelu Lukaku, and on the balance of things, that fee has not been justified for either. Though Kai Havertz has scored to win you guys 2 trophies now.
King Kai.
And though Lukaku got the penalty for the World Club Championship.
Yep.
Still, for the fees, not quite enough.
Score against Luton, though.
Yeah, but it's not quite enough for both of them. So I think he has shown that the appetite to spend is still there. The question is, who would you get in? Now, do you feel some concern with the future, at least in the short term, for Chelsea?
Obviously, yeah, because we're the sugar daddy for the last 20 years. There's no necessarily guarantee we're going to have the next person's going to come and do the exact same thing. I mean, you look at other clubs around, like particularly like Arsenal and United, Liverpool, not so much Man City because they just got more in the new.
And you got to count Newcastle in that picture now.
Newcastle. This is what it is because, as I've said before, like Newcastle are one of those teams in English folklore, English football folklore anyway, where they're loud, they're proud, and they're gonna make themselves known. They'll it's like they're wedding crashers in the terms of football in a way. They've just got new owners. They seem to be turning a corner right now. Now, granted, they're not winning any trophies. Their aim is purely for survival, but that's not the point what I'm talking about. That's not the point what we're talking about. We're talking about the point of what's coming on for next year. So if we're losing one big player, another one has already stepped in, and they have already shown again they're not afraid to take sign some checks. They are not afraid to do so, and the players that they kind of need right now, which is like real smart, safe players. That's okay for them as for survival. But what about for when when they're going for bigger things? You lose one, losing one big fish, and no one comes in. So the next person's got to factor in for that as well, not just the club but the culture, because what a lot of people don't know is that Roman was never actually meant to go to Chelsea in the first place. He was actually meant to go to Spurs. Because I think we were on the brink of non-existent. We were broke. We had no money. Never mind Drogba. We couldn't even afford dog food. So yeah, him coming in, I think it was £150 million sale that changed the course. Newcastle weren't necessarily they weren't broke. They just weren't spending their money. Now you got people in who will. The next person's got to factor in, never mind the clubs ahead, never mind the clubs are all around them in their kind of vicinity. They've got to watch the clubs in Newcastle and maybe even someone else. Because we've already seen, other foreign owners coming in from overseas who are coming and maybe not even spend like mad money, but they make it sustainable. I'm talking, look at Wolves. Prime example, they come in and they sustain it and they do their way where they don't necessarily spend massive amounts of money, but they spend enough money to keep the club afloat to the point that they're now, even after the loss of their manager and some of their main players, they're competing for Europe. So if we're getting someone in, they don't necessarily need to spend the mad crazy money that Roman did, but they need to sustain, have a nice, still have that good model, because also what's changing isn't the loan system changing next year as well? Yeah, the loan system is changing, so we just can't loan players out all willy nilly. We've got to be careful. So there is concern for the fact of other players coming in, because football is changing every single time. It's changing, man. Trying to make the football places the epicenter of their towns, so on the come up. So. And I drove past Brentford the other day. All right, they're in a bit of a slump, but the Brentford now is not the Brentford what we knew even 5 years ago. So, yeah, it's going to be, but it also going to be a positive thing. You might see more, they might have an embrace of more new talent rather than splashing out on big stars. So,
I mean, you might have to, because depending on who takes over the club next, we don't know what their financial situation will be like. The other issue is that because of the precedent that has been set with this whole conflict with Russia and Ukraine, and the number of Russian companies that are getting pulled left, right, and center from different organizations, products getting pulled. I think I even saw the Co-op have pulled Russian vodka from the shelves, and I'm just like, there comes a point where you take a step back and think, what difference is that gonna make?
What does it do?
It's all getting a bit It's a bit much now.
It is.
Okay, we understand you want to show solidarity to the people of Ukraine, fine, but at what point are you? Because now you're going from we want to show solidarity. You're now potentially punishing ordinary people,
civilian, Russians,
jobs, and you're punishing them because of the actions of their leader, which is not their actions, and that's where it's like the line is getting. It's all just it's a jungle out there.
Messy. It's like don't punish. It's not you're not punishing. You're not Russians, which are two different things,
and you may inadvertently be sowing seeds of discontent towards other nations by your actions, but putting all of the politics to one side because it's very easy to go there now.
Very easy.
This week has just been very frustrating with just the whole situation and a lot of stuff that's been kind of coming up with it. But like, do you now think that I don't want to say Project Youth, but your academy and sort of a focus on younger players might have to be the play? Because of course, you got Brozier, who again yesterday is showing that he might well be the guy to lead your line next season, unless you bring back Tammy, which is some rumours people saying you might. I don't know. I don't see it. Obviously, Red Rom hasn't worked out. He's back wearing his Timberlands and he's not quite shooting right. So obviously, there's an opportunity for someone to come in and take that position. So I guess the question is then like, could that be a good measure that comes off the back of Roman's departure?
Well, it worked once. It can work again. And the best thing is now is that this is the time where you're surrounded by even more experienced players. There's not necessarily that. The last time we did it was when Lampard came in, we couldn't spend any money, we just lost Hazard. And for whatever it was, we still managed to get into the top four and we got to a cup final. So if it worked once, and then work again with a more experienced manager as well, it's actually quite an exciting thing to think about. Putting trophies aside, because we've now won everything that needs to be won in football. Why not say, it comes a point where I know Craig, he's not here, says you get into a thing to win trophies, and that's true. But sometimes you just want to see some really nice quality football to make you come back every single week. Sure. And what comes with youth is that kind of fearlessness. They're sometimes a bit raw, a bit unpredictable. They might make a mistake, but what you do get is a lack of fear. Just all that drive. They've had to work so hard to get to where they are. Of course, they're going to show everything they're going to get. And, considering the lone players we have out right now, likes of Brozier, the likes of Gallagher, and even though he hasn't had much luck with under Farker, but even likes of Billy Gilmore, who's always put his good shifting under the Chelsea shirt anyway, mixing with the ones that are more established, like your Mounts, and particularly like your Reece Jameses, it's actually quite an exciting thing to think about. I'd love to see how Gallagher would work, and especially Brozier as well. I mean, he's 20? How old is he? 20? He's young.
Early 20s.
He's early. He's a boy. Again, only got time to kind of get better. And all right, again, Red Rom didn't work. The didn't work. But looking alongside someone like that to compete with, it might help step up their game. So you can look at it as a win-win almost. So it might be a good time. Yeah, a good time to do it. Tuchel's good with youth, and like you said before, we have the players to go out there and absolutely blow teams away with goals. Maybe this might be the thing. Maybe we just might need a little bit of. Because I think with age, you get experience or wisdom, but you might also get caution. You don't necessarily get that with younger players. They're always going That's for true. It.
And I guess alongside that kind of thought is, with the new owner, the prospective new owner, what do you think they need to do to keep the success going? Because Roman has set a very high bar. And also the way how Chelsea have operated as a club has been directly influenced and instilled from his way of doing things in a business perspective. So the new owner coming in will obviously want to change things and put their own stamp on stuff, but it's going to take a lot for the organisation to shift its way of doing things from, culturally from how Roman used to run things to now. What would you say is the big thing that they need to do, to keep the success going?
Just sustainability. Make it just that little bit more stable, because when you're spending the amount of money that he can do, I know we're not exactly even the biggest spenders, but we still spend a lot, maybe even a little bit too much. With company, with as a PLC, when you want to look like more like a, not so much about the greed and just wanting it all. Try and make it not too dissimilar from say the Liverpool model. They got a very like sustainable model where, you know, they spend what they get, you know. And with FFP, we've been burned by FFP before. There's no saying we can't get burned by FFP again. And just be a little bit, just kind of emphasize more and just kind of bring up more. Don't just shift them out straight away necessarily. Don't just shift them out all, because, you know, we've seen over the years what it's like to, you know, when we sell on players and we let them go far too early. Yeah. And what the biggest one is the loan system. It is that loan system where it's just too easy. It's to our benefit, to be fair. It's always that nagging doubt where it's too easy to take advantage of it, because a lot of them never even really come back. You send them out for years. I think it was a player called Van Hinkel or Lucas Piazon. They barely played. Always out loan. So it's just kind of, we're very good at looking after our players anyway, but we want to try and, you know, give them a chance, because it's a massive backlog of players. One of the best academies in the world, definitely in England anyway. So yeah, just make them just that little bit more sustainable. And I think, I don't know, I'm not saying the football's boring. It's not boring. It's fun, especially when you're winning. But there's a kind of bit of like a
bit more kind of attacking.
A bit more attack.
Because that's been one of my things about Thomas Tuchel in general. I feel like he has got those gears in his locker as a coach. We saw it at Paris Saint-Germain. We saw it at Dortmund prior to that. And you saw it in his previous club as well, for those who got little clips from here and there. You could see that the football was there. For some reason, at Chelsea, it hasn't quite clicked into gear. I know Craig says you need more players. And then we were going through the players you had, and I was like, well, you're naming all these attackers at Chelsea, so clearly the players are there.
Yeah.
But I think, do you feel like that's something that maybe a new owner could make that as a directive to help?
Well, some owners care as much about the football, the quality of the football, as much as we do with, say, like the trophies. So they might come in with a more emphasis on...
Some owners do, not Tottenham's, obviously.
Not Tottenham. They don't care about either way.
They don't win anything.
But
this club. It
would be nice to see a kind of bit more of a more fluid, more exciting kind of like counter. We're great on the counter. It's just find that kind of final product. You know what? I wouldn't mind seeing some more kind of like more thrilling football, because I haven't been to the bridge for a very long time, most because it's expensive. But the last time I did go, which I think was a long time ago, but there was a certain drive there that I think if I saw it now, I think I'll just get a little bit frustrated. But I don't know. I feel like I'm digging Chelsea's great. I want to make sure I'm going to make very clear. I'm very happy with how we're going. I just think you're driving in gears. We're in fifth, and it's like we think about going into sixth, but for some reason we slow down and go back again. Hit that sixth. Just change down into that sixth. Just use that. It's there for a reason. I feel like we can, and we can do that. And then, you know, I mean, could be worse. Could be Man City, just boring. But yeah, sustainability, emphasis on youth, fix that loan system, and just make the football that's like really, really exciting. Make Stamford Bridge a right party, because it can be. It's one of those stadiums that still hasn't changed over time. Oh, that could be. Do you want the bridge to be changed?
The stadium.
They've been teasing it for a long time.
I think the issue with that
is they've been teasing it for
you would
years.
Need planning permission, and I think it's very hard to get. The permission you would need in the area would be very difficult to get without potentially relocating the stadium altogether. I think that you did have plans a few years ago. I don't know what happened.
We did. I think what priced out of it. We've been teasing this for a long time to whether to move. I think one point we'll try and do something a bit in Wembley. I think we'll try and move a bit closer to the river. Because we're not where we are. We're technically in Fulham, but Fulham is a bit more close to the river. We've teased so many times. I mean, then they teased about actually working around the stadium itself. But it would be interesting to see what kind of style it would be. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, because I've seen a few mock-ups of what it could look like, and it would be interesting if they were to rebuild Stamford Bridge and obviously enlarge it and stuff.
Yeah, because it's small in comparison. I mean, you're 60-odd thousand, United 70-odd thousand, City is 60-odd thousand. St James's Park is more than 50,000. We're just over 40,000. So at some point we might need to up it. We might need to up it to get more fan to get more fans in.
But what you don't want to do is do like what Tottenham have done at the new White Hart Lane and just like you increase it, but then you don't get people coming in because what are you coming to? So you want to get the balance right. But you guys are successful, and obviously they're not, so that's not a thing to worry about. Yeah. I mean, I guess like as a closing kind of thing about looking at Roman and everything he's done, what would you say at the end of it all were his 3 biggest accomplishments at Chelsea?
In no particular order. Definitely winning that first Premier League after about 50 years, which established a journey for which not many people seen back in 2005. I would never dream of seeing the scenes of what a man has done for the club, the trophies he's won, the way he's established us as a big time players, competing with the best, beating the best, having some of the some of the most decorated players in our club.
And I have to add on that note, like it was one of the worst FIFAs ever made, which is FIFA 05. What I do love about it is they used to do these FIFA 06. They used to do these like video previews of the game, and they had like a season preview highlights of the previous season of Premier League. And that video clip with Rooney's volley against Newcastle and you guys in the league, obviously the ending I didn't like because you won the league. But I think as a football, like I just have that memory etched in my mind.
You're welcome, by the way. Well, good.
Anyway.
So yeah, that for sure. And just how we kind of got it, we just doing it our way, completely changing the stratosphere for football for many years to come. Was for what we know now, hindsight being a great thing. So that's one particular moment. Another one is going to be, I won't say the best one for last, but you probably know what it is. Second one, that's difficult. The defence, that was good because I remember going to a trophy parade with that and seeing the Premier League trophy for the very first time. It's actually quite big. It's like literally like this so big. It's massive. So yeah, the first win, that was the one. I'm going to go again for one of my favourite title wins was 09-10. One of my absolute favourites because that was the kind of football, the excitement that we've been wanting for a very long time, where we were scoring, never mind fours, we were scoring 5, 6, maybe 7s for laughs, for lols. Drogba at his peak, Lampard at his peak, even if like the fringe players like the likes of Malouda, the Malouda-Drogba partnership was absolutely, you miss having those football partnerships, and it was absolutely fantastic. We got goals coming from everywhere. And the title race itself was a nail-biter. Us and United to the very, very bitter end. And we did it in style with an 8-0 against Wigan. So can't really complain about that. My favourite one is obviously going to be that first European Cup win in 2012. Not just for that particular moment, but just for the circumstances of how we got there. From that 3-1 against Napoli, one more goal would have absolutely killed the tie. And then it's kind of like we ended where it was a case of the before and the after. Just having someone in who understands the club and what the club is about, and the club legend like Di Matteo. I mean, Di Matteo being our first Champions League, not Mourinho, not Ancelotti, not Hiddink, but Di Matteo. He came in and just did what needed. He brought back the big guns. They're here for a reason, and they were aging, but they had a point. They had an absolute point to prove. And just seeing that that trophy, that game put me through absolute, you don't believe, but stress. Us getting into penalties when they scored, and then the penalty set. There were things on our side in that title, in that run. There were things on our side. You don't just go. You win the Champions League final at Bayern Munich against Bayern Munich, and in the previous game of semi-final, Messi misses the penalty, and then Torres goes and scores, and we had 10 men. The circumstances, there was something on our side, and I'm gonna take that. But just that whole year of 2012 was just. It was on my side that year. So 2012 has got to be the team that won in 2021 was a better team. But 2012, you always remember your first was the most memorable moment. I was in tears. Watching that win that trophy. I felt like I was there. I actually felt like I was sliding on Drogba. Like he was crying to me. But there's a free like there's others, but those like they're the key. They're like core memories. So.
And I think that's ultimately that's the big thing with this end of this era for Roman Abramovich is that for all the controversy of him actually having to sell up Chelsea and step away from the club, and of course the question marks regarding his relationship with Russia's president, the question marks regarding how he got his wealth, just the nature of their relationship and how interconnected it may be. With all those question marks swelling out there, having these good memories of the good work he's done is really important to sort of balance it alongside that stuff too, because it's like, the other stuff needs to be addressed, of course answers are required. But until that point in time, I think it's good that there is a good dialogue on both sides of the conversation, not just the controversy that people feel, the reality of those and the implication of those controversies, but also the good work he did at Chelsea. And so on that note, I think we're going to call it a day for this episode of One Kick from Glory. The top 4 race is heating up. But for the dodgy referees, Liverpool might have actually got a nice draw against Man City. Everton might have gotten a draw against Man City. And you never know, they might have got a cheeky last-minute winner. But the officials all apologised to Frank about that, and they agreed that they made a mistake. So to the referees out there, do a better job, innit? Because you've been robbing our clubs blind. This title race should be more exciting. We don't want them to win by default. Let them earn it.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week with some more football talk. And we're also going to talk about Marcelo Bielsa next week and his time at Leeds. Of course, they let him go. They've brought in Jesse March as his replacement. But I love the way how Leeds have done it. And it doesn't feel like a firing. It just feels like, you take your granddad to the nursing home. It's like, we love you, but this is the best place for you. And I really like how they've done it. And even the fact that they want to have a proper tribute to him with the fans there and everything, that's amazing. So we're going to talk about that next week. But as well as catching up on the games, because I feel like there's some spicy games coming this weekend. But that's enough from us. We'll see you guys next time. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple, give us a like, give us a comment. If you're a Chelsea fan listening, let us know what your favourite memory of Roman was. And do you not care about what's going on? We'll see you next time. Bye.
Safe.